The Knowers by Alexandra Keister. Before we begin, Father Ingram announced, raising his cloud-like eyebrows up toward the black sky, I'd like to introduce you all to our newest member of the family, Brother Scott. Brother Scott, would you stand? Scott scooted his chair back, its metal legs scraping the cement patio as he stood tall at the table. Brother Scott hails from rainy Portland, Oregon, Father Ingram continued, and he brings with him some great knowledge. Brother Scott, would you share a few words about who you are and why you are here? Scott stood to Father Ingram's right, lavender dress shirt buttoned up to the top, where his red chin seemed to swell over the collar sides. The candlelight flickered against his puffing chin folds in a way that reminded Brother Conley of a bullfrog's fleshy underbelly. As was Scott's tell, with a rough hand he smoothed out the wiry stalks of gray hair, pushing them into the globules of sweat that stayed his hairline. Scott wetted his lips and cleared his throat with a soft rumble. Hello, everyone. As you know, my name is Brother Scott. I'm 65 years old, and for 40 of those years I was a house flipper and landlord in Albany. I loved my work. I made good money from my work, but then I retired. He paused as the men sitting down the long stretch of glass table all blinked back at him, the gray-haired of them smiling slightly in encouragement, others stony-faced. I realized I had worked my whole life for money. It was all just money to buy more houses, to make more money, and it dawned on me that there was more to life than playing Monopoly. I wanted to become spiritual. Brother Paulson, a retired dentist, shot a meaty fist of solidarity into the air. I tried a few churches, but nothing clicked. My wife and I were raised Lutheran, but I hated the cookie-cutter pipe organ, the operatic pastor's wife, the congregation nodding their heads at every word said. I am not a sheep for the slaughter. Brother Newman gave a slow clap and a hear, hear that was seconded by Brother Paulson. So, one day I was looking into local church chapters, and I found you, Brotherhood of the Knowers. Father Ingram took me to coffee and told me the truth about space missions and how you are the only men that the Knowers trust. I trusted him too. His testimony inspired me to know the Knowers. I am proud to be a brother, and I look forward to, hopefully, having my own Knower's testimony. Thank you. The brothers clapped as Scott sat down, some of them whispering to each other about how promising this new member seemed. He was a fit specimen, some said behind their hands. Good to have another professional on board the knowledge ship. The Knowers would surely find him most agreeable. We all know they have good taste. They desired men who seek their true selves, the selves that lay behind layers of fat, layers of self-loathing, and the laziness that mankind has spread over the earth. Father Ingram reached down and picked up a sleeping lamb from under the table. The Knowers you, who knows you, he announced. I hand to you, Brother Scott. Do not shear him until he has turned 2 years old, and on that night will be the reaping of wool for your cloak, where you must slaughter him upon the altar of egos. This is where you die to yourself, Brother Scott. You must learn to love practicality and knowledge, and hold these things above all else. Brother Womack, eyes closed and hands in hallelujah, nodded his bobble head. Your sheep must live as you live. Where you walk, he must follow. Where you sleep, he must sleep. And when you eat, he must eat. He is to be your shadow. a constant reminder to you of purity, of the helpless lamb you once were, and the lion you shall become." Scott reached out and took the sleeping lamb from Father Ingram's arms, along with a small bottle of pills, just in case he bleats in excess. "And now we have some gifts to help you along your journey, Brother Scott. Rubber sheets," he announced, as the brothers repeated back, "Rubber sheets," in unison, to help your body bounce back from the incontinence of senility that the knowers never know but do understand happens sometimes. Reaching down beneath the table, he pulled another item. "Cling wrap," he announced, to echoes of "cling wrap," fell into the dead summer air. "To keep your food fresh as you renew strength with the nourishment of knowledge. You are to wrap this around your head twice daily, to have private thoughts with the knowers." Brother Connolly lifted his hood and proudly pointed to the shiny mass of cling wrap that Sweat was no doubt holding in place. "Not at the table," hissed Brother Reynolds. Scott pretended to be impressed at the obvious dedication to private thinking. "Oh," said Father Ingram, "and each night before bed you are to read this to him." Out from under his cloak, Father Ingram pulled what appeared to be a children's book. He held it up to cheers of "Noah's Nightly Narratives." On the cover, a painted Noah tucked a cloaked man into bed with ghostly hands that seemed to transcend the covers it held. Its face was eyeless, yet oddly pleasant. Is that what they really looked like? Cradling the lamb and the beginner's kit's contents, Scott sat back down, the warm woolen beast sighing in its sleep against his arms. "On to our next and final item," said Father Ingram, clapping his hands. "Ticket sales for our upcoming annual gala. $15 a ticket for one night of fancy fundraising at the lodge. How are we all doing?" The brothers mumbled amongst themselves, making hand gestures, others shrugging their shoulders and sinking back into their chairs. 15 a ticket? Scott thought he had sold his own blues, beer, and brokers tickets for $25 apiece in the past. "I should mention," Father Ingram said, "I had a visit from the knowers last night." The mumbling stopped as the brothers hushed each other, leaning in to listen. "They told me this. This year is crucial to their plans, and with the success of this fundraiser lies the crux of their goal to save humanity. Whoever sells the most tickets will be rewarded with total freedom." This started titters and whispers among the brothers. Total freedom was the highest level any brother could aspire to in the family. "So, I hope that inspires you all to sell, and sell. Any questions, comments, concerns before we wrap up, gentlemen?" "When does the winner receive total freedom?" one brother asked. "He will receive it the night before the gala at our meeting. We'll be at the altar of egos behind Brother Womack's home. Anyone else? No? Good. Brother Paulson, will you light the unity pipe? And Brother Conley, can you lead us in our knowing the all-knowing knowers who know us anthem?" "I didn't know what I don't know, but I now know that Scott muttered to himself as he walked up his driveway, lamb in hand, an alliteration of N's rolling off his tongue in gibbered recitation. The door opened, a strip of yellow light widening over the ground. A tired woman in a plaid bathrobe was leaning against the frame. "I thought you'd be home by now," his wife said. "It's almost midnight." Long first meeting, but they had lots to go over, of course. He was kissing her cheek when she looked down at the lamb in his arms. Where the hell did you get a lamb in the suburbs? Scott had forgotten about the lamb. It slept so soundly. A 4-H buddy on the team. He sold it to me. I think lambs are the new trendy pet, right? The missus rolled her eyes and ushered him inside. You're probably thinking of teacup pigs. But I appreciate your attempt at thoughtfulness. Also, you forgot your shoes tonight. I'm keeping them by the door so you don't have to rent them next time. Scott kicked at the green and purple bowling shoes on the floor. Oh yeah, he said. Imagine showing up to practice without my shoes. I'm a knucklehead sometimes, aren't I? The missus gave him a kiss on the cheek. Maybe, but you're a rich knucklehead and you're mine. That's what counts. The next morning, Scott headed to his regular Wednesday coffee with Joe, or his cup of Joe with Bubba Joe. Joe hated that Scott called it that, and Scott would holler it down the sidewalk as filler during that awkward, do I acknowledge him or do I look down until we're closer time. Joe didn't have to worry about that this time, as Scott was already seated in their booth, quietly studying the Knowers' nighttime narratives. With the lamb at his side, Scott set the book down so as not to lose his place, as he clapped Joe on the back. Joe settled down into the booth next to Scott. What literature are you digesting this fine morning? He asked. Scott showed Joe the page he was on. A knower was massaging the cling-wrapped head of a cloaked man, secrets and knowledge flowing wordlessly between the two of them. This, Scott said, is my new Bible. Joe furrowed his brow and rubbed his nose. Your what? It looks like a kid's book. Scott turned another page as if that would clear things up. Hey, is that a sheep? He said. Scott ignored the question. I'm in a brotherhood now. I joined last night. Joe raised his eyebrows and stuck out a fleshy bottom lip. Don't give me that look. I told you not that long ago that I was looking for a religion. Well, yeah, but I thought you'd at least worship Mary or someone normal. Scott laughed and shook his head. The Knowers aren't some distant figurehead of catechism, Joe. They're personal. They know. I talked to one last night. I've officially had my Knowers touch, Joe. Maybe you should pray to St. Anthony, because I think you're losing your dang mind. No, really. We were passing around the unity pipe, and I saw these hands. He pointed to the incandescent hands on the page. These hands pointing me toward total freedom. Joe continued to shake his head, hiding an incredulous laugh behind a hand of thick fingers. I think it means I'm going to get total freedom at the next meeting. You want to tell me what total freedom is? Joe said. Oh, I don't know the particulars, but it's as high as someone can go in the Brotherhood. I think I'm somehow no longer limited by human nature. I can be like them. And I heard, he said, leaning in, that the last guy who won it, remember Jim Bernard, the orthodontist? Yeah, I haven't heard from him in a while. That's because he won total freedom. He's living on a tropical island, Joe. He's being waited on hand and foot by 30 old but pretty spinsters. The Knowers set that up. You know, I'm done with Darla. Everything she does irritates me. I'm pretty sure I caught her accidentally putting fish bones in my morning coffee. You're nuts! And look at you. What the heck is up with that bowl cut? It's the standard Knowers haircut, he said, petting the sides. I'm in, Joe. I'm all in. And actually, I was wondering... I'm not joining, Scott. This will pass, and we'll laugh about it, but I'm not joining your little farmers and aliens club." "I'm not asking you to join, Joe," Scott said, with an ounce of forced patience. "I'm selling tickets to the annual gala. We'll have music, dinner, a silent auction. $25. Would you come? This means a lot to me." "What the hell?" Joe said. "I'll be the supportive friend. Sign me up for 4 tickets, but no promise that I'm actually showing up. I don't need anybody telepathically probing me, and you can bet your CrossFit cheeks I'll be wearing my rosary." "Honey, I'm off to the tournament," Scott called, "and I'm taking Agnes with me. She's a good-luck lamb." "Have fun, dear," she called from the living room. "And don't forget your new ball. I got it buffed for you today at the alley. The little man who did it was so cute. He said to tell you good luck, and that he knows you'll win total freedom tonight." "What was that?" Scott said. He could hear her turning the page in her magazine. She licked her fingers before turning each page, and what he hated most was that she didn't even lick the fingers that turned the page. "He knows you'll win total freedom? Like, I think that's the name of the tournament, right?" "Right. Tonight is the Total Freedom Tournament. It's very American. I'm running late. Next time you see me, I'll be a winner." "Victory is sweet," she hollered. Scott could not get to the meeting fast enough. After charging $25 for each ticket instead of the requested $15, he ingeniously used the excess money to purchase more tickets. Sure, those people wouldn't show up, but he would win total freedom, and if those pipe-smoking bastards could actually go door to door and outsell him, Scott Lepman, owner of 30 former kiss-asses and numerous wealthy bored colleagues. It was the Boy Scouts all over again, and this time his competitors would be the ones filling their unsold popcorn tins with tears. Scott entered a very hushed backyard. He could hear the squish of his loafers as he padded gently toward his brothers, all grouped around the altar of egos. "Scott Lepman," Father Ingham boomed from above the altar, "the knowers are here, and we have all been expecting you." The brothers beat their chests with latex-gloved hands as Scott approached the altars. "They know how hard you worked to sell over 200 tickets," he announced, and the thudding of fists against chests intensified to a loud rumble. "Lay yourself down, Brother Scott, upon the altar of egos, that you may redeem total freedom." Still beating cloaked ribs, the brothers opened their mouths in unison, singing in a monotonous hum. "Lay down?" Scott asked. "Do as you are told," came a voice from the trees. "All right," said Scott, climbing atop the altar of egos. He lay down on the cold stone, crossing his arms over his chest as Father Ingram motioned him to, the altar thrumming with the sound of brothers' voices, and there, in the tree above him, was a face. Scott lay there, frozen, staring at the bald, incandescent form that had an air of familiar scorn. "I know you doubted the whole time. Yet, what's this? Cling wrap between that toupee?" "That's mean," thought Scott. "Mean? You thought these old fools would fund you a trip to the Bahamas? We think taking advantage of the elderly is mean. But here's something special. You get to be the only one to know, you little human you. You can be our chosen knower. We like eating people, and people like believing in us. So we make them sleep in rubber sheets, carry around dirty farm fodder. We make them sing ridiculous songs, and it's all with such fervor. They love it. So this This total freedom works. We eat you and you get free. Isn't that what you wanted, honey? Alexandra Keister is a 25-year-old executive assistant extraordinaire in Albany, Oregon, who enjoys writing fiction. She earned a BA from Oregon State University in English with a minor in writing. In 5 years, she hopes to have many stories published, a book on the way, and a little house with her future husband, Chris Pine. 2 out of 3 would not be bad. You can find more of her writing at mskeister.blogspot.com.